Hi, I'm Evan Campbell from Indestructible Art, and I'm here with Graham Smith from DrinkBox Studios. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Did I say Grant? I'm here with Graham Smith from DrinkBox Studios.
That's right.
How's it going, Graham?
Pretty good.
So you're working on a game right now, Guacamelee. It's getting closer to being shipped. We heard about this game maybe a couple months ago from like that you guys actually signed with Sony to publish the game. It's coming out on Vita and now also on PS3. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah. So we're working with Sony through the Pub Fund program.
Okay.
Which is, it's not a full publishing deal. It's more like an advance on royalties once the game is finished. So we're actually self-publishing the game. But when we release it, Sony's going to give us an advance.
Okay, awesome. So what is kind of the process of getting signed up for something like that for other indie developers who might want to know? Like, what did you guys have to do to kind of set that kind of a deal up?
So it's similar to submitting to like for a regular publisher. We sent a build to Sony. We had to pass. You have to be a licensed developer already for their systems, but that's not a very difficult thing to get set up. And you have to pass their stage 1 approval, which is basically like a concept approval for the game. And then you can submit a build to them, and they'll put it through their evaluation process. And if they like the game enough, they'll come back to you with an offer for the Pub Fund advance.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the game a little bit.
Sure.
Guacamelee is it's kind of hard to miss. It's a very vibrant game. Super amazing art style. We've got kind of this Metroidvania style, I guess, with luchador themes kind of wrapped all in there. But I guess you actually worked on the game, so how would you describe Guacamelee?
So it's at its heart, I guess it's a brawler first and foremost, but it's a mishmash of a lot of different things. So we take a lot of elements from Metroid-like games where as you're progressing through the story, you're unlocking new powers, and those powers allow you to progress further. So the world that you're able to access is growing as you get more powers, because, for example, you'll unlock an uppercut move that you can use kind of as like you can jump and then do an uppercut, and that's kind of like a double jump, and all of a sudden you can break through weak ceilings to get to new parts of the world, or you can reach higher ledges to get to new parts of the world. And so pretty regularly throughout the game, you're unlocking another power which will open up more of the game, and exposing this larger world to you. So that's kind of the Metroid aspect. Then there's a lot of platforming elements to it too, like you'll have wall jumping challenges. And then on top of all that, we have this concept of multiple dimensions. So
right.
In the demo we're showing right now, there's portals that the player can go through to go between the world of the living and the world of the dead. But later on in the game, the player will gain an ability to be able to swap between them more free will, like at will. So when you're like platforming, there might be some platforms that are only in one of the worlds or in one of the other worlds. So you have to be swapping dimensions while you're platforming, or some enemies might be invincible in one of the two worlds. So while you're fighting, you're also doing this dimension swapping thing. So kind of, and then all of that is put inside of like a Mexican themed world. So we're drawing a lot of the characters and the story from Mexican culture, which is something that hasn't really been explored that very, very deeply in video games.
Totally,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of in a package. It's like...
Can you talk about a little bit how you guys came onto that? What made you decide to go that way? Is it just a matter of being like, hey, no one's done this yet?
For the Mexican theme stuff?
Yes.
So the game was initially pitched by our animator, who is from Mexico, and he was... he tells us that he was feeling this nostalgia for back home, and we were just collecting game ideas from everyone at the studio, and he came with this idea for Guacamelee. He had the title already at the time and a bunch of concept art, and he had a lot of the main characters that you encounter through the story. He had already like backstories for them and stuff, and he was drawing a lot of that stuff from like Mexican folklore, things that we had never heard of before. Like there's this guy you meet, his name's Chivo. He's a man who could turn into a goat, and like people in the village actually believe, like these small villages actually believe that this guy lives outside of the village. He sometimes turns into a goat, and
there's some of that in the demo for the game.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of the mini bosses you meet throughout the game are inspired by that stuff, and then the two dimensions, the World of the Dead is inspired by the Mexican Day of the Dead festival, and so we're just trying to draw from like a lot of authentic Mexican culture that a lot of people might not necessarily have been exposed to before.
So you guys have an incredible theme, and I mean, the one thing that could drag that down is if the gameplay isn't very good. And I played it today, and I know like the gameplay seems pretty solid so far. But what do you guys do to make sure that like everything is working and is polished? What kind of process you guys go through to make sure that everything is good to go?
So there's a lot of experimentation, a lot of play testing. We go to a lot of shows like PAX, for example, and kind of just put the game through its paces and watch to see if people are having fun. when you put something together in the studio, you think it's fun, and then when you bring it out there, you see people getting frustrated by certain aspects, and then you go back to the studio and you're like, okay, what can we do to make this like a more fun experience or like a smoother experience? And so I would say a lot of it is playtesting. A lot of it is kind of intuition too. Like you're trying to draw from games that you play and things that you find fun and putting that into the game. And then like we have the people at the studio have like really quirky senses of humor, so we're trying to put a lot of that into the game to add to that as well.
Right. Yeah. And you were talking about the game being a brawler before. And I noticed the third jump in the game, like most Castlevania or Metroid type games, will have a double jump. And instead of a double jump, you guys have kind of implemented this like Smash Brothers style third jump, or second jump, I guess, is like up and B, or would be in like Nintendo games, but it's up and circle, I guess. Like those kind of decisions, do those come lightly, or?
Yeah, so that was actually like in our initial on paper design. That's one of we had like a couple of moves that we wanted to try and use for. We were trying to think of things that could be used both for combat and for platforming. So that's one of the first ones we came up with. Like this uppercut could be a double jump as well as an uppercut move. So yeah, we actually do have a double jump later on. So you get the double jump and then you can double jump and then uppercut. So it's kind of like a triple jump.
Right. So that would okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was assuming, but I guess. When you started working on Guacamelee, what made you gravitate towards working with Sony, or was it something that you set out on from the beginning, or?
No, actually. So when we started working on Guacamelee, we were pitching to all the publishers that we could talk to, trying to find funding for the game, but then we got funding from the Canadian government to help finish the game. So we actually, at a certain point in the development, we realized, okay, we can self-fund the game, but we still need to get onto the different platforms. So at that point, we were just talking to publishers about getting access to the Xbox, because Microsoft doesn't allow you to self-publish on Xbox. So we were talking to them. We were actually pretty far along in talks with multiple publishers about that. But then Sony came in with their pub fund guarantee, and when we were looking at the numbers, it made more sense to go with them because. If we were to put the game out on the Vita and the PS3 versus the PS3 and the Xbox, it actually, with the pub fund guarantee, it made more sense for us to do it with Sony and make it an exclusive Sony title. So at the start, we weren't really biased towards Sony, but in the end, the offer we got from them was the best one for us.
So you would recommend it to other game devs, maybe depending on what they're working on, or? Yeah,
I would say that if you want to talk to the Sony pub fund people and submit your game, it's just like another option that you have. If you're talking to other publishers and there's interest from multiple parties, it's just another one you can use to compare. And for us, we found that was actually the best option. So
right on.
Yeah,
the game is coming out on multiple platforms, right? You're coming out on the Vita and the PS3, and that could be a little bit confusing. People are maybe a little bit concerned of which one do they buy. Is there going to be a bundle? Can you talk about the delivery of the game a little bit?
So we don't know yet for sure what we're going to do. I do think we would like to offer some kind of bundle, but exactly what SKUs are going to be released and the pricing for those is something we're still kind of debating internally and just talking to Sony and other people about kind of what people want or what people expect, and so no final decisions have really been made on that stuff yet.
Right on. And do you guys have any tentative release date, a goal that you could share with the public?
So we're trying to finish development this year and release early next year.
Right on. And we're here at Indiecade. Could you talk about being at Indiecade, I guess? What's that process like, submitting your game and getting accepted?
So yeah, we submitted the builds to Indiecade for evaluation around the same time as we were submitting to publishers. So it was actually a long time ago, and yeah, it was like a great surprise, and we're extremely happy to be one of the nominees. It's my first time at Indiecade, and just like walking around the fire hall today and looking at all the different games, there's a lot of really cool experimental stuff. It's a cool place to come and see like many different ideas, like people going in multiple completely different directions with experimenting with different things, and I don't know, it's just a really cool experience to be able to be here and see this.
What's your favorite thing so far, do you think, that you've seen?
I just played a game called Unmanned, which is like kind of right beside us, and it was like, I don't know, an emotional experience. Like it was pretty short, maybe like 20 minutes in length. I'm not sure if that's the whole game or not, but I don't know, I kind of really identified with the character in that game. I felt sad at the end, and like it made me feel like, I don't know, put me into this guy's life for a 20-minute period, and I experienced the tedium of his life in a way that it's really interesting. Like, never played a game like that before. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you around.
Cool.
Sure. Thanks for talking with us.
Thanks.